Hello, my name's Ash, and in this video we're going to go over some basic expressions in Power Automate. Expressions in Power Automate are the secret to transforming basic flows into dynamic, intelligent automations. So whether you're wanting to manipulate data, format dates, or customize outputs, expressions give you the flexibility to build smarter workflows. So this video will be posted with my blog, which has all of the expressions written in text, so you're more than welcome to jump over and have a look at the blog and see them in more detail, but this video is just going to give you a rough idea of how those expressions work. So here I've got a SharePoint list called Expression Cheat Sheet, and this is just the list that I'm going to use for the data that I'm using in these flows to show some expressions. So I've got a mixture of data in here. We've got some text columns, a person column, multi-line text, a choice column, and some yes/no columns. So I'm going to jump over to Power Automate, and we'll start by looking at some date time formats. So on the left hand side I've got the canvas open, and on the right hand side I've got one that I've just run. So I'm not going to go through all of these, so these are all in the blog as I mentioned, but I'll just open some and show you what it looks like. So the first one here, UTC now, that basically just gives us exactly what it says. So the date is the 13th of the 7th, so UTC now, and you also get the time. So whenever you're using UTC, you do get it as the full date and time, but you can use format date time to change the format that you'd like to see it in. So here we've got year, month, day, and then it's changed that format and removed the time off the end. So you can do things like adding days, so this one's adding 7 days, and then I've got subtracting 1 hour. And then in the next scope here, I'm working with New Zealand date and time. So obviously I live in New Zealand, and what I want to do is actually convert the date and time into New Zealand Standard Time. So that's basically just using the convert, mentioning which time area that you would like to see it in, and then the format. So then from there, I work with New Zealand date and time quite a lot. So when I am wanting to add days or minus time, etc., then I will need to convert it from UTC and then format it into New Zealand date and time. So this one here, I'm adding 7 days, which would mean it is the 20th of July. And then in this last scope here, what I've actually done is just connected it to the get items, which is at the start of the flow. So we're getting the due date, and for example this one we're getting 7 days before the due date. So say we might want to send an email 7 days before the due date, so we would do something like this. So we'd add days, we'd get the item from SharePoint, minus those 7 days, and then format it. So that would give us the 6th of June. Here's quickly the date expressions. Now I'm going to go over to some string expressions. So we'll just jump out of this one and jump into my string one here. Cool. So we'll just go into the one that I've run here, and we'll just pick a few to go through. So this one here is a concat, so it's basically joining two pieces of data. So this is joining the first name and the last name from SharePoint. So we can see that the inputs here is my SharePoint item. So it's gone and got all of my SharePoint item. And then we can see that the inputs are ash space at get splash. So then if we look at it in SharePoint, we've got ash at get splash, and that's just joined it into one string value. Then if we have a look at another one down here, so I've got a to lower, and underneath that you'll see I've got system email. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the text that someone has entered into the email, which is a text field, and I'm just putting it to lower. So what that means is, if we have a look at the SharePoint, see I've got some capital letters in my email here. It's making sure that it's all lowercase letters. And the reason for this is the next one here, I've got the system email. So if you had a person column and you're trying to get the email, it will provide it to you in all lowercase. So if someone has entered an email or something similar and they've put capital letters, it's not going to match. So then if you wanted to do a condition like I've got here, where I'm saying, is the email equal to the person's email, that would have given me false if I hadn't used the to lower. But it has given me a match because I changed it to lower. Then we've got some upper and some replace, and then down here, we'll just go to the last one here, which is a split. So what I'm doing here is I'm splitting the bio based on commas, and you can see that it has split that wherever there is a column in my multi-line text field. That's a quick example of some string expressions. And now I'm going to jump into my math conversions. So again, I'll open the edit and flow run history. So if we look down here, we've got some adding and some subtracting. So here I'm adding 10 plus 34, so it's giving us 44. So if you think about how you could use this in other types of scenarios, you might need to add some financial data or some currency. You might want to subtract some data. So again, I've just entered the input, but you could make this dynamic. Then I have this one here, integer. So I'm actually converting the 6 into an integer, which is what then I could use in other number expressions. Then we've got converting a number to string. So you might need it as a string format to update an item. And then we've got multiply, division, minimum. So here I'm getting the minimum out of the compose div and the compose multiply. So out of these two, which gives us 20. And then the last one down here, I've just got random. So that's going to give me a random number between 1 and 200. And where we quite often use that is sometimes in a delay action. If you wanted it to be random, you could do 17, but there are some other examples where you could use random. Now I'm going to jump into my logical and conditions flow. So I'll open the flow run here. So again, I'm getting my SharePoint item and I've just run it on ID1 as I have for the other ones. And in here, you can see I've got an if statement. So sometimes I don't always like to use conditions. I like to keep my flows in one level without a lot of branching. So I'll sometimes use if statements where I need them rather than an actual condition. So here I'm looking at if the laptop column is true, then change the string to yes or no. So we can see that it has gone to yes, so I would assume in here we've got the laptop ticked to yes. So we see that I've actually got two expressions in one here. I've got the equals and the if, and how I normally build these is I'll build them in multiple compose actions. So I'll do, first off I'll do the equals, the laptop column is true, and then I'll get that working, and then I'll add that into the if statement. So if I ever need to do more than one, I'll quite often use 3 or 4 different compose actions and build it up until I have it correct so that I can see what's happening. So there's our equals. So we're saying if is the mobile column true, and it is, so it's given us a true. Then we've got some things like and or, and then we've got not. So this one here is saying not equals to approved, and that's giving us false. And then we've got empty. So it's looking at a column to say is the notification value empty or not, and it is because it's giving us true. So we might use that to say if we wanted to send a notification at a certain time, then we'd say has the notification been sent or not. So if it's empty, then it hasn't been, so then we can then send an email. Now I'm going to jump into my basic HTML email formatting. So I quite often use HTML when I am sending emails so that I'm able to send links and things like that. So we'll just open this and we'll run that. and I'll just enter ID1 so that it just picks up that first ID in my SharePoint list. So in our first one here, we've got a very basic compose email, which is just saying the applications have been approved. There is a wee bug in the compose at the moment where whenever you enter a BR, which you would need in the HTML, and as soon as you add that, it actually disappears. So we've raised that with the team. So we'll just continue like it's there at the moment. And then what I do is actually put the body in there. I just find this a nicer way to format, to work with my email body, etc. So you can see the BRs are there, but they're not in my edit screen there. So we can see that email sent, and I'll open up my Outlook in a moment, but I'll just go through the second one. So the second one here, I'm working with the dynamic content from the get items. So if we have a look, I'm saying the application for first name, last name has been approved, and then I've got some details about it, so, and then a link to the item. So we can see that it looks like that, and it's going to go and send me some emails. So if I open up Outlook here, we can see what that looks like. So we've got some bolding, we've got the detail from the SharePoint list, and then I can click on that link to get to the item. So that's just some nice formatting for sending emails. So that, again, that's in my blog if you'd like to use that. And then we'll go to the second to last flow I have here, which is about collections and arrays. So I'll just open this one here. And we might go run that one. Cool, so what we're doing in this one is we are creating an array. So I've randomly just put in some fruit into an array so that I can show you what it looks like. So the first one we're doing is getting the length of the array. So that just looks like length, and then I put the array in there, and it's given us 5. You can do things like getting the first item and the last item to kind of determine what kind of data is going into it. You can look at joining them. So instead of formatting it in an array, you could have it formatted with columns with a comma. So here we've got the fruit with the comma that I've identified in my join. And then you can do things like, does this array contain banana? And we can see that it does. And the last one I want to show is filter queries. So I'll just open this one here, and we'll run it on the right hand side. So what filter queries will do is help in getting data back from different data sources, but we can filter it so that we don't get more than what we need in our flow. So in this first one here, we've got a filter query on a text column, which is country equal New Zealand. So this could be dynamic as well, but I've just put New Zealand in there as text, and we can see that it has got one item. So there's 2 in the list, but only one matches that filter query. Then the next one, we're doing a format based on time, so only get items when the due date is equal to this. So if you wanted to send reminder notifications, you could get all items in a list, filter it based on the due date, and then send emails to those specific people. So we can see we've only got one again. And then down here we've got some filtering based on dynamic filters. So what I've done here is I've got my getting one item, which is the ID1. So we've gone and got that. And then I have added the status column into a compose action. So this is to kind of mimic if you had like 2 or 3 different lists and you wanted to filter one based on other data within your flow. So here we're doing the status is equal to the body of the choice. So again, whatever the status is in ID1. So if I open that and have a look, it's approved. So that should show us approved. And then our get items is only going to get items based on approved. So again, that should only get one item, which it has. So that's all I've got to show. So again, all of these are written as text in my blog if you'd like to see that. would be interesting to see which expressions you think are great for beginners, so if you want to comment on the blog or the video, let me know. Any questions, just reach out. Thanks. Bye.